This is the sound of an African rainforest. It is a hive of life and activity. It is also home to a variety of hardwood trees, mahoganies, rosewoods and teak, as well as the shea nut species or charcoal tree. The hardwoods are prized for their beautiful, deeply durable wood, which is used to make high-quality furniture, wooden floors and panelling. The problem? The demand for these trees is fast outstripping the supply. Tropical forests across Africa are being pillaged for their trees. One such area is the Zoka Central Forest Reserve in northwestern Uganda.
Yeah, Zoka Central Forest Reserve is a very important forest reserve in my life, and I believe in the life of many Ugandans, because it houses over 75% of the butterfly species we have. It has flying squirrels inside this forest. The forest has thousands of fauna and sauna inside. It's quite very beautiful. It's one of the most unique forest reserves in the world because it has tropical, it has savanna, and it has, woodland, all these three in one. So that makes it extremely unique, And besides that, this forest has a lot of, herbs. We could use it for research, for many things, trying to derive essence of treatment and all this from the forest, The forest can also provide for us ecotourism systems and all that. This forest quite has enormous, benefits to me and the people living around.
That was William Amanzuru, chairman of the Friends of Zoka organization. And in this episode of Zowie On, I speak with William about his years-long fight for the forest he loves. Hi folks, my name is Zoe and you're listening to Zowie On. I'm a journalist who lives in Europe, and in this solutions-focused podcast, I speak with fascinating people from all walks of life. From euthanasia to prostitution, ex-Muslims to humanism, we tackle questions from a first-person perspective. Now, this doesn't mean I have all the answers, but it does mean I'm not wallowing in despair at the state of the world. Zoka Central Forest Reserve has been designated as a protected area by the Ugandan government. However, from around 2013, William tells me that he and others who lived in the area saw the forest, as he puts it, coming under massive attack by those who were meant to be protecting it. In less than 6 years, 65% of the indigenous Zoka forest was destroyed.
That is where now, what happens is, in 2017, we engaged the ministry, and the ministry wrote a ban on Afzelia africana tree species and cyanide tree species.
No logging.
No logging, no transportation, no exportation of these tree species. But to date, if you go to my district,
you can see it.
You can see it being done openly. You can see it being done at will. You can see that it seems now government has lost control over, trying to regulate their own set standards, because it has now become everybody's business. It has become business of the most powerful within the society.
Is it that the government has lost control, or is it that some of the government are in fact involved in this illegal logging?
I think, you see, the second question virtually answers the first question, because of the people in government getting involved, meaning government will definitely lose control in trying to regulate this, because you cannot regulate what you practice. Yeah, so okay. That is why, you see, the tree species from my district to reach Kampala, it's around 500 kilometers. Within these 500 kilometers, you have numerous powerful roadblocks. You have like around 4 powerful road checks, which if they even find you exporting, like let's say a stick of unwanted cigarette, it can be found. But you wonder why they cannot detect logs. why they cannot detect
Great
charcoal.
big logs.
Yes, in huge trucks. Okay, and then if you reach Kampala, where these logs are shipped, prepared, ready for exportation, next to it is you get the police headquarters, the mechanized police headquarters. This is where the logs business takes place. And when you look at the people working at this, confined place, there are people of Asian origin, of Chinese origin working there, Then you really ask yourself, where is the authority? Where is our government? Because all this is done, and right from the cutting down of the trees, these guys are provided security up to when they reach Kampala. So for me, my thinking is that the security is provided with even knowledge of our key persons in the government.
A study by Enact Observer from March 2021 shows that 80% of Uganda's timber trade is illegal. The country loses an estimated 200,000 hectares a year through deforestation, with illegal logging being one of the major causes. The most significant driver of illegal logging in Africa is the Chinese market for teak, redwood, and mahogany. Yet, as Alex Bloom of the Environmental Investigations Agency recently explained on the China in Africa podcast, the Chinese government has been strangely reticent on the issue of illegal logging in Africa.
I don't think the issue is that the Chinese government is unable to do anything about it. I think it's a question of priorities. When the Chinese government decided to clamp down on ivory trafficking, they were able to do so quite successfully. And China did reform its forestry law and just has yet to actually put in place any regulations to actually address all the inflows of illegal timber. So I really think it's a matter of political will, and they're just not sharing any of those communication lines with the outside world. But I don't know why this isn't a greater priority, especially given their stated commitments to FOCAC, memorandums of understanding with Mozambique and a number of other African countries, and their statements at the UN Climate Change Convention, Sunnyland statements stating that they are committed to fighting illegal deforestation.
I met William Amanzuru when he visited The Hague in 2019 to accept the EU Human Rights Defender Award. Born in Uganda's northwestern district of Adjumani, home to Zoka forest, William tells me that he speaks for the trees as they cannot speak for themselves. This decision to speak on their behalf, however, has come at a price. William has faced death threats, break-ins, and has had to send his wife and children to live 500 kilometers away in order to ensure their safety.
In January this year, a very powerful woman who works with the Ministry of Health in Uganda literally attempted to kill me. When we went to the bush to try to do our routine monitoring of what is happening, we got her with a group of men. Mm-hmm. Yes, they had cut down trees, they had cut down logs. She had two tractors in the bush. She had these hand saws, around 4 of them in the bush. And the question I ask is, how do you feel destroying your own environment? Really?
It's a good question.
Yes. Do you feel, really, what are you doing exactly? So she got furious for me, and she got out a knife, wanting to stab me. I took off. Then she came and she laid a roadblock for us. When we reached the roadblock, she had petrol in her hand, but still I resisted. I still ran away. I ran away not because I am powerless, but because as a human rights defender, I felt, no, it's not necessary to confront. But you see, these are some of the threats we go through.
In spite of these threats, William and a number of other members of his community felt that they could not simply sit by and do nothing while Zoka Forest was plundered. So they started asking questions in search of what the activist terms a peaceful answer.
We started by simply just asking questions. Walking to an office, asking a question about what's happening in Zoka.
So concerned citizens.
Yes, concerned citizens. Then at the end, I realized I was creating like-minded people across my village and then across the district. And then the number kept building. But we simply kept on merely asking questions, wanting answers. Then until one evening was when we decided that, no, let's call for a meeting. Whoever is willing to know what is happening inside this forest can come and we discuss. And I requested people in your individual capacities ask these questions. Because me alone, yes, I can ask these questions, but definitely I'll get no response. But if all of you are asking these questions in your different capacity, ask. What we need is a peaceful answer.
This ultimately led to the creation of a small local movement calling themselves Friends of Zoka in 2015. The movement does not have any fixed offices or address. Instead, William decided to create a WhatsApp group the following year for all those interested and involved in this initiative. He explains to me that they started simply by sharing questions, comments, articles, even songs and poems. In this way, the sense of community and dedication to the cause grew. They also decided to add some of those who the community knew were involved in the illegal logging business.
I created a WhatsApp group called Friends of Zoka. Now, all the questions we asked fairly were documented, answers were fairly documented, and in the process, we decided now to handpick responsible government agencies, responsible leaders, the people cutting down the forest, the people abusing the environment. We added them all on this WhatsApp group. Okay. So it became like any closed family question.
I would imagine some of these people might not want to be in the WhatsApp group.
Yes.
If they're the ones cutting the trees down.
Yeah.
So how does that work? Do they just remove themselves from the group?
We had instances of many of them exiting.
Yeah.
As soon as they exit, you re-add. Okay? As soon as you exit, we add you back. And once we add you, we ask questions that, like, we say, okay, William, why do you leave the group? We know you destroy the environment from this angle of point, and we know you coordinate with this one. So, where is your stand? Because the community knows the food you eat, the car you drive, the house you sleep is an abuse of our environment. So then some of them chose to remain dormant
in the group to try and defend their position.
Yes. And what I do is I collect all these conversations. I look for money. I pay a local radio station. I appear on the radio. Then I read about what is being written in the WhatsApp group. I say, we have a WhatsApp group. We are 250 from this group. So and so is a logger. So and so deals in a charcoal. So and so is this, is connected to this.
Because then I guess a lot of local people, they have access to the radio.
Yeah.
So they can then hear what's going on.
Yeah. At one point now, the local loggers within my district feared to even interact with the community because I requested the community to shun them. So
the loggers are now, they're known to the community. Some of these loggers are known. So it's like a form of naming and shaming.
Yeah.
Which can be very powerful.
Yeah.
Friends of Zoka see their role primarily as holding power to account. Research shows that government corruption and illegal logging are mutually reinforcing.
Yeah, I think for me the biggest challenge is, as a country, we have lost grip of our own identity. And the loss of this grip has created what I call, impunity.
Yes.
Where people believe they are the law and the law is themselves.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And you see, interestingly, this impunity cuts across. It's not only in the government. No. You really wonder in a community or in a country where now impunity has become order of the day. To me, I think even in Uganda, we have lost sense of direction. Okay? Corruption virtually has become a ministry on its own.
Life. Yeah.
Okay? Yes. It's a ministry that is not funded. It's a ministry that is headed by everyone. It's a ministry that has employed all Ugandans. We are all benefiting from this ministry, but silently we don't want to talk about it.
Ironically, the Ugandan government has received hundreds of millions of dollars in green funding to halt deforestation over the past 2 decades. A long list of donors from Australia to the EU, Canada to the UN adorn the website footer of the country's Ministry of Water and Environment. But these projects, usually localized tree planting or sustainable forestry efforts, have made little impact on the deforestation, which has continued at a rate of 7 to 10% in the past 2 decades. The trade in what is locally called black gold or charcoal also continues unabated in spite of a recent ban. As William puts it, we are hostages here. They come with guns to tell you to cut your tree. But even without guns, the $10 they pay will already be enough. People here choose to eat either breakfast, lunch, or dinner. There are no easy solutions to complex problems like these. But the situation is not without hope, according to Kobus van Staden, Asia-Africa scholar who is based in Johannesburg and explains here on the China in Africa podcast.
I think what is really the kind of missing piece here is for Global South countries with large forest assets, in the first place, to think of them as assets, to define them in that kind of way. And, there's a lot of that work being done in kind of climate academia, but it hasn't 100% kind of filtered out into the broader world. And the problem is that it's hard at the moment still for countries with large forests to just simply directly profit from maintaining those forests. If once some form of carbon credit, carbon trading, even though I know many people are extremely cynical for good reasons about carbon trading, but it does still in some kind of way offer at least some kind of economic framework within which a living forest can start to be worth more than the actual individual logs taken from it. And, so once that, I think, is on the wider front, that is our big challenge, is to find a way of having intact living forests being worth something, rather than just being thought of as a great collection of wood that should be cut down and sold off.
Another way to think about natural resources like large living forests is as a potential means of debt reduction. Many countries with large forests are struggling with high levels of debt and unemployment. As William's story of Zoka forest highlights, it is difficult to resist the financial rewards of illegal logging if you're struggling to feed your family. This is Will McGoldrick of non-for-profit organisation The Nature Conservancy, which has facilitated a number of debt for nature swap deals. He speaks here on the climate conversation.
Debt for nature swaps, also known as debt conversions, are really about trying to unlock or find new ways of funding conservation and climate change goals. We all know that one of the major limiting factors for governments is their ability to pay for these goals. So it's very easy to turn up in Paris and make bold commitments. It's another thing to go away and actually achieve those commitments on the ground, and that requires money. The world revolves around money. So what we're really trying to do with debt conversions is to kind of tap into new sources of funding that can help achieve those goals. And really, we do that by using pretty well-established techniques where you go back to the market and you renegotiate the terms of your debt. And that's really powerful because it's sort of tapping into an existing pot of money and redirecting it towards conservation.
The Nature Conservancy has also recently helped facilitate Africa's first debt for nature swap. This took place in Gabon in the form of a $500 million blue bond, which is expected to generate $163 million for marine conservation projects over the next 15 years. Reuters also reports that a handful of other African countries are now looking at the debt for nature swap option. And although the Nature Conservancy will not be drawn on names, they tell them that they are hopeful that the eco-friendly swaps on which they advise could total $10 billion by the end of the decade. Back to Kobus in Johannesburg for how these debt for nature swaps might be used to incentivize governments to save living forests while also getting serious about tackling broader problems of poverty and unemployment in their countries.
I think the other issue I think that is really important is to position forests in the context of these countries' larger financial issues, right? Kind of, which is particularly a lot of debt in different African countries. Not all of them, but a lot of them have significant debt issues. So there it then kind of connects to the broader issue around not only debt, but also development finance. And so, for example, I was at a very interesting conference last year where experts on debt for climate swaps were talking about the actual mechanisms of enforcing some of these things. And it's a very interesting field. It's a kind of an emerging field in kind of environment/development studies. Like proposed schemes being floated around in academic circles around, for example, kind of if one is an indebted country with large forest assets, then there's debt for nature swaps where that asset starts actually functioning as an asset. And then these proposals that there'd be ongoing tracking, of forest cover. And if the forest cover declines over time because of corruption-related illegal logging, so as long as the forest cover is maintained, that debt doesn't need to be repaid. It's essentially repaid in oxygen by the forest. When the forest declines, then the debt kicks back into action. I think there are actual solutions, particularly not only in saving the forests themselves, but in recognizing that one of the reasons why these forests are declining is because of the larger structural economic position of the countries they're in. Countries that are under enormous pressure to sell off anything in order to, to function within the global economy. So, I think we need broader and embedded kind of solutions, which is easy to say and difficult to do. But, I think this kind of like discussion about not only siloing it in terms of nature conservation, for example, but positioning it in the context of youth bulge, demographic need for development, etc., all of these things need to be taken into account at once.
It will take both large-scale top-down approaches, such as these, as well as smaller but no less powerful bottom-up initiatives like Friends of Zoka to save the green lungs of the earth. William tells me that he has been approached by a growing number of community leaders and NGOs across Uganda for advice as they take inspiration from his courageous perseverance and wry humour.
I think the beauty is what people learnt in me is the peaceful way of how I handle this.
Yes.
I come head on with the loggers. There are loggers who literally at some points held me at gunpoint. But the best I tell them is, you see, it's beautiful. You can kill William now, which is good. But now the challenge is somebody may come up more bigger than William. And now, for how long will you keep killing? If killing is sustainable, then I am here. And if you think killing is not sustainable, let's talk.
Citizens like William stand as beacons of hope for future generations of climate activists. That's all for now, folks. Feel free to get in touch via the comments section or on one of my social media handles. I love to hear from you.